250 years, so we're celebrating 250. I almost thought I wouldn't get to do that because I was president in 2016, and then they rigged the election on me. And then we caught him, didn't we? We caught him, but, you know, we had to run it again. I ran it again, and I got 250, and I got the World Cup, and I got the Olympics. Can you believe all of it?
That was Donald Trump wrapping up his latest and frankly troubling STUNS speech to members of the U.S. military, where he once again appeared to use the armed forces as a backdrop for political messaging. This time, he was speaking to sailors at an event marking the Navy's 250th anniversary. He reportedly showed up about an hour late, keeping the sailors waiting, something many viewed as disrespectful. Throughout his remarks, Trump made a series of strange and inaccurate claims. He stated, for instance, that he was president in 2016, even though Barack Obama was still in office at the time. Trump won the election that year, but didn't take office until January 20th, 2017. He also spent time talking about Osama bin Laden, claiming he had predicted the 9/11 attacks and even tried to stir negative reactions toward former President Obama. At one point, he referred to Democrats as gnats, who needed to be swatted. The overall tone of the speech was chaotic and unsettling, filled with political attacks and factual misstatements. Unfortunately, it's part of a broader pattern of behavior that continues to raise serious questions about Trump's judgment and leadership. Before we roll the clips from that event, if you find this coverage helpful and want to support the channel, be sure to like, subscribe, and tap the notification bell.
Osama bin Laden, and the fake news would never let me get away with that statement unless it was true. But I said 1 year before to Pete Hegseth, I said 1 year before, where's Pete? In the book, I wrote, whatever the hell the title, I can't tell you. But I can tell you there's a page in there devoted to the fact that I saw somebody named Osama bin Laden, and I didn't like it, and you got to take care of him. They didn't do it. A year later, he blew up the World Trade Center, so we got to take a little credit because nobody else is going to give it to me. You know the old story? They don't give you credit, just take it yourself. And it was the U.S. Navy that...
Donald Trump appears to be taking credit for predicting the 9/11 attacks, despite there being no evidence that he ever did. During his speech, he claimed to have written a book where he supposedly foresaw the attacks, though he couldn't even remember the book's title. The story became even stranger when he tried to link it to Pete Hegseth, the current Secretary of Defense and former Fox News host, even though Hegseth was only in his 20s during 9/11 and had absolutely no connection to those events. The explanation was confusing and all over the place, filled with unrelated references that didn't add up. It was yet another speech that raised serious concerns about Trump's focus, clarity, and sense of purpose, especially given that he was speaking to members of the U.S. military. As journalist Aaron Rupar noted, Trump even arrived about 25 minutes late, leaving naval cadets waiting in silence before the event began. We're going to play a few clips so you can see for yourself what was said.
But we have to take care of this little gnat that's on our shoulder called the Democrats. They want to give all of our money to illegal aliens that pour into the country. And, you know, I have a bigger heart than they do. But the problem is when you do that, they come in by the millions. Everybody wants that, so you can't do it.
Pretty disrespectful. Then 40 minutes. Been 57 minutes, but apparently they got some music. If you truly respected the troops, you probably wouldn't keep them waiting that long. After finally taking the stage, Donald Trump referred to the Democratic Party as, quote, a gnat that he needed to deal with. He then claimed Democrats wanted to give all our money to people entering the country illegally, adding that while he had a bigger heart, such actions would supposedly bring in millions more immigrants. In reality, Democrats aren't trying to give money to undocumented immigrants. What Trump was referencing is the ongoing government shutdown and the debate over health care, particularly the Affordable Care Act and Medicaid. Democrats have made it clear they won't vote to reopen the government unless ACA subsidies remain in place. Those subsidies help millions of Americans, including many Trump supporters, afford health care coverage. Trump's remarks completely distort that reality. This isn't about immigration benefits. It's about protecting healthcare access for American citizens and lawful residents. Despite his repeated claims, the facts simply don't support his version of events. Now, let's move on to the next clip.
A man that everybody loves. He was my doctor in the White House, and I got to know him very well. He was also the doctor for Barack Hussein Obama. Have you heard of him? And he was a doctor for a man named Bush. And at a press conference, they asked him, who's in the best shape? Who's the healthiest? Who's the strongest? Who's the best physical specimen of the three? He said, that's easy. President Donald Trump. And I said, I love this guy. I said, I love him.
A few key takeaways here. First, Donald Trump clearly tried to get the sailors to boo former President Barack Obama by emphasizing his name, but it didn't work. Some in the audience did cheer toward the end, which was disappointing. Trump also brought up Dr. Ronnie Jackson, the former White House physician who served under Presidents Bush, Obama, and Trump before becoming a member of Congress. Jackson, who retired as an admiral, has faced controversy, including reports that he was overly generous with prescription medications, earning him the nickname Candyman. When a doctor like Jackson publicly claims Trump is healthier than Obama or Bush, it's fair to question that credibility. Those statements don't align with public facts. Finally, it's troubling that some cadets applauded during Trump's political remarks. Regardless of who's president, members of the military should stay nonpartisan. The fact that Trump continues to politicize military audiences is what makes this moment especially concerning.
150,000 tons of pure American naval supremacy, and two colossal reasons why no one should ever want to start a fight with the USA. They won't fight. We're putting out a lot of fights, so do you see that? We're going to be close to number 8. Number 8. We don't want to send you into battle unless it's necessary, right? We're putting out a lot of fires. Maybe some of you will be angry. You'll say, what's he doing? We want to fight. You know what? If we can solve them the way I'm solving them, we solve 7.
He still hasn't offered any real evidence to support those claims. They've been repeatedly debunked, yet he keeps repeating them. For reasons that remain unclear, he also implied that the U.S. military hasn't been truly effective since World War II, before launching into what he called his own expert explanation for why that's the case.
I don't know. Would you ever want to, we won World War I. We won World War II. We won everything in between. We won everything before, and all of a sudden they decide to change the name. They went woke then too, Woke is a long-term word. I said, what do you think about changing it to the Department of War? He said, I love it, sir. And that was about the end of it, right? That was the end of it. Thank you, Pete. Great job. He's a great leader. Also, Secretary...
I'm glad the crowd didn't cheer at the idea of changing the name, but it's still baffling. And honestly, it doesn't seem like Trump was joking. He appears to genuinely believe the name itself matters. He's suggesting that switching from Department of War to Department of Defense somehow weakened America's military, as if a name change could affect missiles or firepower. That's simply not true. The U.S. still has the most advanced and powerful military in the world. The challenges in Iraq or Afghanistan weren't about capability. They were about the realities of occupation and resistance, not strength. The notion that renaming the department made us weaker just doesn't hold up. Still, Trump seems convinced otherwise. Anyway, let's move on to the next clip.
They're really loved. I saw it backstage. I saw so many veterans. My hand will never be the same. Thank you very much. A great honor and a very special thing.
It's not entirely clear what he meant by that comment. Maybe he was referring to the strain of shaking too many hands. Either way, it was another strange moment that suggested fatigue and a lack of focus. We've seen similar instances before that raised questions about his energy and composure, and this one seemed to fit that same pattern. It almost sounded like an unintentional admission of being worn down. Now, I want to play one more clip, and even by Trump's usual standards, this one stands out. He showed up late, spoke off the cuff, and drifted from topic to topic, giving the impression of someone speaking without a clear plan. When that happens, he often ends up saying things that aren't just historically wrong, but also revealing, and at times unsettling in what they suggest about his view of the future. Take a look.
Delta. Problem with Vietnam, we stopped fighting to win. We would have won easy. We would have won Afghanistan easy. We would have won every war easy. But we got politically correct. Let's take it easy. We're not politically correct anymore, just so you understand. We win. Now we win. We don't want to be politically correct anymore.
What's most alarming here is that people applauded that message. When Trump attacks so-called political correctness, he's really rejecting accountability in warfare. History, from Vietnam to Afghanistan, shows why ethical standards and rules of engagement matter. They exist to prevent unnecessary harm and uphold humanity. Suggesting we abandon those principles is dangerous. A professional military relies on discipline and respect for international law, not recklessness. This speech summed up Trump's style: erratic, aggressive, and dismissive of responsibility. And the fact that some in the crowd cheered for that shows how easily this mindset spreads. A mindset that could take years to undo. Thanks for watching this video. And if you stuck around at the end, you can drop the blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I will see you soon.